Welcome to the pre-post film review. I'm John Asquith.
And I'm Matt Stevenson. So this episode we're going to be chatting about the new film Birdman. The way the podcast works is that first off we'll come into the studio and you'll hear us have a little chat about the trailer, which we watched when that was released. Usually there's not any spoilers in the trailer section, but we do make some kind of wild predictions in this episode that kind of come true. So if you haven't seen the film, I'd recommend not even listening to the trailer section. But then once we've done that little chat, we'll come back into the studio after we've seen the film itself, and you can listen to us do a full review that's definitely chock full of spoilers. So definitely don't listen to that until you've seen the film. Here's the trailer.
How did we end up here? This place is horrible. Smells like balls. We had it all. You were a movie star, remember?
Who is this guy?
He used to be Birdman.
I like that poster.
You wrote this adaptation?
I did, yeah.
And you're directing and starring in your adaptation. That's ambitious.
Are you afraid people will say you're doing this play to battle the impression that you're a washed-up comic strip character?
Absolutely not. That's why 20 years ago I said no to Birdman 4.
Birdman 4? You do Birdman 4?
Now you're about to destroy what's left of your career. We should have done that reality show they offered us.
Shut up.
I'm gonna grab up on your ass, fucking choke you out.
You know I'm right.
You're so nice.
Hey, what's up?
All right, we're in the studio having just seen the trailer for Birdman.
Yes.
The newest film from Alejandro Iñárritu. Yes. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Matt, I'm wondering what you think of this strange trailer.
Yes, I think strange is the right word. I think it looks great, but weird.
Yeah.
Which is good, but I sort of don't know what to expect from it. I've seen a few of Alejandro's other films, and this doesn't really look like anything else that he's done. Like, his other stuff has always been quite dark and serious, whereas this looks like it's going for a more comedic tone. At least in parts, it also does look like it's got quite dark undercurrents. Yeah, I don't know. It looks kind of bonkers in a great way. I'm excited to see this one because I have no idea what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. That, you can look at the trailer in one way and think that just looks mental.
Yeah.
But you can kind of sense that maybe there's something to it, that there's...
Yeah, I hope so.
There's a weight and there's a point to it. It kind of feels like an intelligent mental, you know what I mean? Like chaos that has some kind of point behind it, perhaps.
Yep.
I think like the filmmaking looks interesting. That's kind of like this dreamy, surreal.
It looks
almost
very floaty, handheld.
Yeah,
The camera's getting right up in everyone's face.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of the time.
And then you have these weird like effect shots as well, which seem to be these fantasy sequences or something. That looks really interesting. I guess there's the whole meta side of Michael Keaton being Batman. And then,
it's essentially
he's older
him
now and
commenting on his failed career after Batman. Or failed's maybe the wrong word, but
like quote unquote failed,
exactly.
Mainstream career or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's all interesting potentially. There's a bunch of great actors in it that seem to put in solid performances, just judging from the trailer.
Just having Michael Keaton back on screen's great.
It's great, yeah, and he looks fantastic in it. The trailer itself kind of seems a bit spoilery, don't you think?
Yeah, yep. I mean, it's a lot of kind of out of context, weird little one-off shots, but there's some stuff where looks like he's going to commit suicide by throwing himself off a building, and you see him do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So whether that's like how it all ends,
that's like the final shot of the movie.
Yeah, seriously, I was wondering that when I watched the trailer.
Yeah.
Though there is other shots where he's in hospital and Emma Stone's running to the hospital with flowers, and he's got sort of a messed up face. So maybe,
that's true.
He survives that.
I wonder if it starts out there, perhaps.
Actually, that's a good...
Could be like the starting point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's also seems to be a shot where he's on stage and he puts a gun to his head. Right?
Yeah, whether that's part of the play or...
But I feel like that could be like a poetic way to end this kind of film, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
He ends up killing, like starts off, tries to kill himself and fails.
Yeah.
And ends up killing himself
Actually
on
doing
stage
it.
with a gun.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's going to be really interesting when we see it, to
Yeah.
see if that prediction comes true.
Or was there anything... what else did you think was potentially spoilery in the trailer?
That's kind of the stuff
Yeah.
I was thinking of. But also little things like you see Edward Norton sort of getting a tour or something of the stage, and then later you see them fighting. So there's like some kind of clash there. I guess that's not a big spoiler, but it just seems
It feels like you kind of see
the
snippets
arc
from everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Every part of the film.
Yeah. And I guess, as we were saying before, because it is presumably quite surreal and a bit all over the place, hopefully, it's not spoilery to see this stuff out of context, because it's just like kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I don't know, I just have a gut feeling that I'm going to like it.
Yeah.
But I guess, it'll be interesting to see whether that comes to fruition, because it could be a mess.
Well, I guess exactly what I was just about to say.
Yeah, it could be a big, I guess, pretentious mess. You know, there's definitely a chance for that as well.
Yeah, like sort of tonally, if the comedy doesn't land, which I'm actually a little bit worried about, because the trailer opens with that line about smells
like balls. Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work.
I don't know. I didn't laugh at that when the trailer opens with it, and putting that front and center kind of worries me a little bit that that's the tone that they're going for, and it might not work for me.
No, I agree with that.
So yeah, it's an interesting little film, I think.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing it.
Definitely.
So, why don't you try to rest a little bit?
Face it, Dad. You're doing this because you're scared to death, like the rest of us, that you don't matter. And you know what? You're right. You don't.
Baby, can you understand me now? Sometimes I get a little mad. Don't you know no one alive can always be an angel? When things go wrong, they seem to go bad.
Listen to me.
I'm just
You were the original, man. Let's make a comeback. That's what I'm talking about. You're Birdman. You are a god.
Hey! Is this for real, or are you shooting a film?
A film!
You people are full of shit.
All right, guys, here we are in the studio once again. Welcome. We're here to talk about Birdman.
We are.
We've seen the film, and there's lots to talk about, I think.
There's lots to talk about.
So, Matt, why don't you kick things off and tell us what your general sort of thoughts are on the movie?
Sure. I really liked Birdman. I think, based on what we sort of chatted about when we looked at the trailer, my expectations were kind of bang on. I didn't think it was like a masterpiece or anything, but I really love that it's doing something different, love the crazy camera work and the sort of thematic things it touches on, but not everything works. Some things feel a little muddled. The humour didn't really land for me in a lot of places, which I was worried about having watched the trailer. But sort of overall, it really... It worked in general. I enjoyed it for the most part, and I love that there's these crazy, wacky films being made that are bold enough to explore interesting things. So, yeah, positive overall.
Yeah,
what about you, John?
Cool. I feel like I'm probably on the same page. The trailer, in a way, does a really good job of representing the movie in terms of feel and tone, because you're right, the movie is exactly like that. Well, I thought, like...
I would agree to an extent, but I think the trailer doesn't convey the kind of claustrophobic intensity.
No, that's true. Yeah.
The style kind of builds.
Yeah.
I think they've gone to trouble in the trailer to edit in a lot of shots of like externals and tiny cutaways to like the comet that you kind of see, and makes it feel bigger.
Yeah,
I was kind of
true.
surprised by how claustrophobic it actually was.
Yeah, I felt that as well, actually. It felt like after a while, I almost needed a break.
You're like anxious, right?
Yeah,
I think
it is very anxious.
Though. I think that's intentional.
Yeah, I think so too. I guess Yeah, you've just destroyed my opening sentence.
Sorry.
No, I guess what I mean, I suppose, is what you said, is that my expectations were... It set my expectations, and that's exactly what I got, basically, is what I thought I was going to get from the trailer, pretty much. I really, really liked it, though.
Yeah.
I almost love it, but not quite, because there's so much in it. It's so packed with, like... ideas and themes, and it's like a critique and a satire on almost anything.
Yeah, I know, right? Everything in it.
Everything,
is like
anything related
down.
to a creative field, or life in general, or getting old, or there's so much in there that some of it works brilliantly, and some of it feels a bit ham-fisted. But overall, same thing. It reminded me of Snowpiercer in a way, in that I'm just so glad that it exists to have this creative vision that's uncompromised, and it's just like, here's this wacky, amazing, crazy thing that I made. Like it or not, here it is. You know what I mean? It's not compromised in any way. Yeah. So I really liked it.
Did you like the one continuous shot kind of feel?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I think, like, technically it's an amazing movie. You could see the kind of stitches every now and then.
Especially if you clued into sort of digital effects.
Exactly,
you can kind of feel where they've stitched shots together.
Yeah, that's right. And, I mean, it makes sense to shoot a movie like this digitally, because film is a lot more finite in terms of its length and stuff. Yeah. But I wish it had been shot on film, because it does feel quite digital at times. It feels a bit home movie-ish. But then maybe that's...
It's part of the
it kind of it kind of fits the theme of, like, just being intimate and close with these people. Did you like that sort of thing?
I really loved it, actually. I don't know, I thought it was kind of another really great example of form mirroring content as well. It's this weird, it was strange to me, and it was almost overwhelming in a sense. That's perhaps a little criticism. I was so focused on it being one shot that it took up, like, a part of my concentration for the whole film, because I was always conscious that it was one shot and sort of being amazed at how they were pulling it off. And this kind of was enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it was also this weird thing, like, that it's like a crazy cinematic trick that they're doing the whole time, but by doing it, they kind of remove the cinematicness from the film, and it kind of becomes like a play, and you just it stops being about, like, the filmmaking, even though it really is all about the filmmaking, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
And it just becomes about watching characters interact with characters, and it feels like you're there with them, and it adds this sense of realism. And the way that matches with the story of him creating this play, and the themes of, you know, the types of which type of art is more respectable, you know, film or stage acting. I don't know, it was just a great mesh of form and content that I thought worked perfectly. It wasn't just a showy trick, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, it fit in thematically with the film as well.
No, I totally agree. And I think it also, aside from mirroring the content and the thematic stuff, it also highlights the acting of pretty much everyone in the movie is just, like, amazing. And it's almost easy to forget that when I was watching it, because you see them act on stage and it's a bit stiff, or it's different than how they act behind the scenes, you know, but they're still acting. But your brain almost goes, oh, they're not acting now. They're, like, back to being themselves. This is the real thing. But, you know, of course, it's a movie. They're acting the whole time. And so I thought that there was such a great way of playing around with that sort of idea, and that I had to keep reminding myself at times that, like, well, why is Michael Keaton such a bad actor on the stage, until you get towards the end of the movie where he's quite good because he's all messed up in his head. But I was like, oh wow, that shows how incredible of an actor he is, because as soon as he gets off stage, he's, like, troubled and he's stressed, and you believe it instantly. And then he gets on and he's talking about love and that, and it feels a bit stilted. And I don't know, it was just super impressive. I mean, everyone, Edward Norton is just incredible and hilarious in this movie too. I think he's where some of the humour kind of worked a bit. Like,
Yeah,
not
actually,
that
that's
he's
true.
that
I'd
funny,
I'd
but
give you that. Yeah.
but he has quite a few funny moments, and Emma Stone. Emma Stone.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was going to say Emma Watson then, and then I got confused. And anyway, yeah, she's amazing as well. She puts in a really great performance.
Yeah.
I think her character is a bit problematic, sort of, but I don't want to get too deep into it. There's so much in this movie,
Yeah, I know.
so it's hard to
Like,
know
which
which
rabbit
path.
hole do you go
Yeah,
down?
exactly. Yeah.
Just before we go off the technical stuff.
Yeah.
I also really loved when you finally do get the edits.
Yeah.
Like after he attempts suicide, and then suddenly you just get this succession of,
That was
of
great.
shots of like the jellyfish and the
Yeah.
media and
Very cinematic shots.
yeah,
too,
yeah,
like-
and it's so jarring. Like you've spent whatever it is, 90 minutes or whatever, or maybe longer, probably.
Yeah.
almost 2 hours at this
Yeah.
point of just having this one single take, and then suddenly you getting all these shots intercut, and it it really jumps out.
It
and
does. Yeah.
Just, I really like that. I found it really effective.
Yep, I totally agree. It's interesting, from the perspective of this podcast, analysing the trailer beforehand, I think the trailer is really spoilery.
Yeah.
Really spoilery. And even though out of context, there's literally the last shot of the movie's in the trailer.
You wouldn't.
But
know
you
that,
wouldn't
so-
know. Like, that's okay. Although I'd still prefer if they didn't have that in. But, we immediately picked up on this suicide theme and the fact that maybe he does it on stage or he jumps off the building or...
Yeah, we were a bit wrong about when it happened, right? Like, my prediction was that it would open with him attempting suicide, then it would end with him shooting himself on stage.
Yeah.
But that's kind of happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I remember us too discussing, like, there's scenes of him in the hospital or something.
Yeah,
and so the whole movie, I was like, well, we haven't had that yet,
Yeah,
I know
true.
that's coming up at
Same.
some point.
I was thinking the same thing.
And then, when he starts flying off the building in the movie, I was like, okay, well, it's not here. It must be at the end after he shoots himself.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
That's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it, I enjoyed it less because of that, but I was definitely conscious of it when I was watching. So
I think it doesn't hurt the film per se, but it deters from your enjoyment at the time. Like, you don't have that great initial cinematic experience. Like, something's slightly tarnished. First time you see it.
Yeah. I think
which
you're
is
right.
disappointing. But I don't feel like it destroyed the film for me.
No, and I think a large part of that is because, well, the characters are super important, and so are, well, the arc of Regan Thompson, I think is his name.
Yeah, I think so.
Michael Keaton's character. But the movie's also just as much about metaphor and theme as the characters.
Yeah.
And so knowing this little character moment almost isn't a spoiler, because there's all this other stuff that's on the same level of importance in a way, because they're constantly kind of commenting on something or critiquing something. How did all that stuff, I mean, we've talked about a bit that there's too much of it, but how did that, is there any sort of specific examples stand out to you, good or bad?
I think I liked most of it, to be honest. I really liked, I mean, it's kind of on the nose, I guess, but I liked the really overt criticism of the of superhero films.
Yeah.
And
I was so happy with
I
that.
knew you'd love that. I was sitting there thinking, John's going to really like this.
Yeah.
Like, almost, directly to camera.
Yeah.
Talking about, how all the audience wants is violence and
I think it is
blood
literally
and
to camera, right?
guts and
With the Birdman shot.
Yeah, and then that's when he sort of takes flight, or the Birdman takes flight, and there's a big creature lands on the roof. And
Yeah.
So I was actually talking about this after the film. Like, in the film itself, that's used as a really sort of satirical poke at, Hollywood blockbusters and superhero films. But if you watch the trailer, it kind of suggests that there's going to be a lot more of that stuff in there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what surprised me about seeing the film, is that it was so claustrophobic and contained within this little theatre. Like, you barely even leave the corridor, the winding corridors of the theatre.
Yeah.
Apart from that one scene, and there's maybe a couple of cutaways to that media or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I wonder if it's kind of like a bit of a meta joke as well. You know what I mean? It's like
To
they're
have that in the
tricking these
trailer.
audience because they
Yeah.
literally say like people only want violence. They don't want any of this like philosophical shit or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, I saw this at Hoyt's in an IMAX or the VMAX screen.
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
The biggest screen they have at the biggest multiplex cinema in Melbourne. And I don't know, it baffles me in a good way that they show a film like this and people are coming. And I wonder if that's because they think it's going to be this superhero film.
Yeah.
And then they get there and it's this like 2-hour, philosophical thing about making a play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's like, is everyone in on it behind the scenes, including the distributors?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I really love that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, where I saw it at Village, it was on one of the biggest screens that they show The Hobbit or any of the Marvel films on, like the blockbuster screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's got one sequence with special effects, but the rest is just talking
people
about
talking.
art and
Yeah.
life and what it means
exactly.
to be creative and all this kind of stuff. And it's the same screen that in a few months will have the Avengers or whatever on it. Like, yeah, it's crazy, but really, like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I mean, I don't think you can plan that. Like, I
No.
think that's just a happy coincidence. But it really adds to the way you watch the movie.
I've heard a lot of people complain about the critic character in the film. I can't actually remember her name, but she writes for like the New Yorker or something.
Yeah.
Sort of, newspaper. And she's kind of just built as this one-note villain who's sees herself as kind of the guardian of true art and basically tells Michael Keaton to his face that she's going to fucking destroy his film just because of what he represents and the fact that he's a celebrity that is just using the stage to jumpstart a dead career and prove that he can, air quotes, act.
Yeah.
Which I kind of agree. Like, as a character, she's pretty shallow. That you don't find out anything about her at all, other than that she's a bitch.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of really liked that was in there. I liked the jab at criticism, and then I just kind of thought it had this little thematic arc where kind of tying into the superhero stuff about how he talks about everyone wants is violence and bloodlust, and then it literally takes someone committing suicide, shooting himself in his head on stage for her to give like the best review she's ever written. Like, she's
that's a
just
great
as
point.
guilty as anyone else. Like, all she wanted was literal blood on the stage.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
Everyone is applauding, and it's this breakout success. So I don't know. I think it's worth having. That's a good example of it's worth having a sort of cliched, stereotypical character in there to, I don't know, progress interesting themes within the film.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with everything you just said. And I think, she is very one note and very obvious, but it's almost like she's like a culmination of all the critics, and all the bloggers to an extent and film writers and everything boiled down into this one character. A cynical one,
and I think it's also satirical, right? Like, it's not
exactly.
It's not meant to be like, this is what reviewers
That's right,
are like.
yeah.
Like, it's a joke. Yeah.
Exactly, and so I've been getting a little annoyed, reading reviews for Birdman when people complain about her, but it's like every character in the movie pretty much is
an exaggerated
a comment or a satire or exaggeration of a type of, so almost like an archetype, a story archetype or a type of character or something. And so I think, critics just don't like being
criticised.
Being criticised, I honestly think that's a big part of it. And there are critics out there, not all, definitely, but there are some that kind of like bashing a movie, and it's a guilty pleasure, I think, for a lot of people sometimes to read a really bad review where they just destroy a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of like bad-mouthing films occasionally.
Yeah.
It's fun to tear a film apart.
Yeah.
Or it can be.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I think the difference is with the comment they're sort of trying to make in Birdman is that it's this kind of preconceived notion that you've already decided before you go in. You're not actually assessing the art at all. You just decided, I don't like this person, so I'm going to dislike this movie. Or, there's no openness.
Yeah.
And I really like that the both Edward Norton and Michael Keaton say to her, like, well, we're out there and we're making things. Like, what are you
exactly
doing?
Right.
And sometimes when I mean, we're on this podcast, so we're I wouldn't call us critics because we're not professional.
No
but
one
we're
cares
commenting on stuff and we do criticize things. But I feel like sometimes there is a self-importance to film critics and things like that that gets under my skin, because it's like I'm always going to side with a creative person or a creative endeavor if it's honestly done than someone who just sits there and like points out flaws, you know.
Yep.
And that's why we can like Snowpiercer and Birdman, and I'll throw The Hobbit in there as well, and that they have their heart in the right place. And even though there's problems with those movies, I'm so grateful that the people behind them are like trying to say, I mean, take The Hobbit out of that actually, but you know, like you know what I'm trying to say. I'm getting a bit lost in my own thoughts here, but I get very frustrated sometimes with the critic community, and it's kind of cool if you're a bit blasé about things and like
tear things down.
You know, the internet is like that already, and there's this whole blogosphere of like film critics and stuff that kind of wank over each other, hating on movies, and it gets under my skin. Anyway,
I totally agree.
Yeah,
I think like something would have to be very cynical itself, like a film I'm talking about, or a piece of art for me to tear it to shreds.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's why I think, as an example, like the Transformers movies.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that is something that is a machine to make money.
Yeah, there's nothing
full of just
pure
ads.
of heart
exactly.
in it at all.
Yeah, it's you know, upskirting underage girls to try and get teenage boys to spend money and then spend more money outside of the cinema on all the things that are product placed within the film.
Exactly.
There's no like narrative or thematic integrity to it at all. So I feel okay attacking something like that, but something that tries and fails, I feel like you can point out its flaws, but you have to give it credit for trying and you know, give it praise as well.
Exactly. I think just to throw out another movie, Lucy last year is another great example of that, where there was some terrible reviews of that, and those people I think would just miss the mark, and they were just wrong basically, and we were right. So yeah, I'm glad that you like that character, because I wasn't sure which way you'd fall on her. But I was really glad that she was there to offer that perspective and sort of sounding board for those ideas. And I think another criticism of the movie that people are throwing at it is that it's like it thinks of itself as this great artistic kind of endeavor, and it's saying that the stage is so much more worthy than film. But I don't think that's true at all. And I think Edward Norton's character is kind of a satire and a bit of a critique of like the self-serious artist who takes shit way too seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I found that really that was a good, like there's two most of the points they bring up, there's two sides to, I think.
You were saying that some people are criticising the film for thinking that it's thinking too much of itself, and that it's this grand gesture. I don't know. I can kind of see that argument to an extent, even though I disagree with it.
Yeah.
But
there's a little bit of that.
I think the one thing that you can probably come out of the film that is clear that it's saying. I mean, it's saying a lot of things, but you can interpret them in multiple ways, which I kind of love. But I think one clear message you come out with it is that it's pretty obvious that it thinks risking everything is what is a worthy form of art. Like no matter what medium you're in, what you're doing, what your profession is, if you put it all on the line, that is worthy of praise. Like that's acting, that's filmmaking, that's theatre. And I think in a way this film is doing that. Like,
exactly,
you know, it's a little film and it's trying all this crazy, like, one-shot stuff.
That's right. Yep.
And, okay, maybe that is, like, thinking a bit much of itself, like, putting itself, like, form in with that, packing that in with that theme of the film.
Yeah.
But it's also, like I was saying before, a good example of form and theme working together.
Absolutely.
And, I don't know, I think it works better having that than not having some, like, ballsy filmmaking and still trying to say these same
Exactly.
messages.
I think
then
that'd be
people
worse.
would criticize it for saying like,
that's right.
it's trying to, be all pro putting everything on the line, and then
Yeah.
it just makes this conventional film we've seen a million times before.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's so interlinked. You know, the as we've already said, the filmmaking and the thematic stuff is just like you can't separate them really at all, and I really, really admire that. And I think that comes back to, again, like the stuff with the critic character where it's like, well, at least we're trying and at least we're doing this.
Yeah.
And you can criticize whatever, but at the end of the day, we've made this film about this stuff.
Yeah.
And like you guys, people criticizing, you guys haven't done that. So
Yeah.
like, I really, really respect it for that. I think, I mean, I don't think it's too full of itself.
No, I don't
really.
think so
I think
either.
it's like it's very self-aware at the same time, and it pokes fun at itself. And as I said, it pokes fun at the seriousness of people that are so serious about art and how like kind of silly that is.
How did you feel about the ending of the film? There's been a lot of discussion about that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the only point in the movie where I felt like disconnected and I wasn't understanding what they were trying to do.
Thematically?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, thematically and not in a good way, not in a good ambiguous way, because there's things during the movie that are like a bit ambiguous, and you think about them, and that's good. It's like meaty and it gives you stuff to kind of chew on. But the ending, like he shoots himself, and while I think that would be not cliched, but almost, if that's how it ended.
Ended
because
with
that's
him
like
committing suicide.
there are a lot of art films out there that end with like a gunshot, someone killing themselves, or like I feel like I saw that at uni heaps. You know, that's a very student film thing to do. But then it comes back to the hospital stuff, and it kind of muddied what they were saying before. I wasn't really sure what they were trying to say there.
Muddied it in what sense?
Well, I just like, I don't know.
I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just curious.
It would make
how you
more
read it.
sense to me if he did die for his art rather than... I mean, I know the intention was there to die for the art, but then he lived and everyone loved it. And I like that didn't really seem to make him happy.
Yeah.
He was still kind of miserable.
Yeah.
And still, I don't know, I'm going back and forth on it now in my head. Like, because you think maybe he's going to be okay. And then he kind of looks like
Birdman.
Birdman.
He's got like the gauze.
Right?
That was one of the things I was going to bring up. Yeah.
So are they trying to say that he's become Birdman fully? Like, is he fully given in now to his delusions and his like psychosis? Because I think they're trying to say with his fake nose as well now, it's a bit more beaky.
Yeah.
And then he climbs out the window and presumably kills himself, right?
Is that how you read it?
Yeah, that's how I read it, because the movie isn't a fantasy. Like,
but he's jumped off a roof before.
Yeah, but in reality, he caught the taxi.
Yeah.
So I think in reality, he just jumped out the window, right?
Well, in reality, maybe he went and caught another taxi.
No.
No, I don't know. I mean, like
the window was open. I think he jumped out the window.
But then what about Emma Stone's reaction to
well, that's what baffles me. That's what I don't understand.
Okay, that's what you don't understand.
Yeah. And I don't want to think of it as a superficial happy ending, because the movie seems better than that, but it almost seems like, she finally sees her dad flying around. What is the... I don't understand what's going on there.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know what I actually thought of it at the time when I watched it. It is quite confusing and jarring, especially the Emma Stone stuff, because you're right, the magical realism stuff before that has always had like a grounded explanation for it until that point. Apart, I suppose, from when he drops the light on that guy's head at the very beginning. But it could be just a happy coincidence.
I feel like that was a coincidence, yeah.
But I don't know. I think it kind of works as another darker level to the satire. Like, he kind of has become Birdman, not necessarily in terms of his mentality is sinking back into that, but like he finally reached this level where he put everything out there for his play was a real actor. The critic, changed their tune and respected him for it, realised that perhaps he wasn't doing it just for the fame.
Superficial level.
Even though he kind of was throughout. Like, he was flip-flopping.
Yeah.
Like, the Birdman was always talking in his ear, trying to convince him that this is how you...
Yeah.
You can kind of tell he wants this to boost his career.
Yeah.
So whether his character had changed at the point where he commits suicide or not, I think society then, after that happened, has kind of pushed him into Birdman-ness. Like, it's almost against his will. He's become Birdman again.
Yeah.
So everyone loves him. He's back in the spotlight. He now looks like a Birdman, even though he's not in the costume of Birdman. He is just he himself has become Birdman.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess you could totally read the whole jumping out the window thing and Emma Stone as all of that is just kind of metaphor, right? Like, he's dead, but it took that for his daughter to respect him again. Like, because he's on Twitter now, because he's, like, famous again, suddenly now the daughter is
I think you're right about that,
you are this hero for me.
Which is just depressing.
Yeah, kind of, I guess so.
Yeah. Because that's a whole thing we haven't even touched on as well, is her they use her character to kind of bring up a lot of that Twitter following and like
stuff.
What does that mean, and how does that make you important or artistic or powerful at one point, Emma Stone says. Like, this is power, showing that viral video of him like running around.
But did you read that as honest or satirical?
Well, I think it's right that this is power, but it's empty power.
Yeah, okay.
And I think it's a critique that, and again, one that I agree with. I can't stand when people get so emotionally involved in stuff like that, like
celebrity culture,
or even like sometimes a hashtag goes viral and it just makes my blood boil because it's not anything. It's text on a screen. Just because you read it's just And so I really liked that they use her for that, and I think then you could be totally right about the ending and that.
But I don't know. I think that's just one reading of it. I think the good thing about it, to step back, I probably agree that shooting himself in the head would be a tighter, better arc and ending. Like that fully explores that theme to its extreme and then ends it.
Yeah.
But the ending that they add after that, I don't think it deters too much from the film. It's confusing in a way, but I love that confusion. I love that we can sit here and chat about what it could mean, because I think all those readings are valid. Like, whether it's a uplifting moment where she just sees her father for the great actor that he truly was, or whether it's he just tops himself and she has the mental break or whatever that theory is that I was reading the other day and just pretends that he's not dead after seeing his body on the concrete.
Yeah.
Or, there's so many...
Yeah, I think what's interesting in that last scene is that you get a glimpse of the Birdman apparition, like on the toilet and stuff. Like, you see the wing come out and he's... Regan Thompson says something like, goodbye, fuck you, or something like that. And I just don't know how to take that. Like, is he finally shedding the apparition? Like, or is he like, I don't need that now because I am that?
I am that. Yeah, that's
maybe.
True. Yep.
And it's only at that point too that the drums start kicking in. And I found that another almost thematic thing, in that the drums are usually happening when he's a bit fucked
totally
in the head.
Right. Like that. It's that moments when he's going a bit crazy.
Yeah. I really, really like that. I think it's like the score is totally reflecting his mental state, and even to the point where you see the drummer at times appearing
in the break room.
Yeah, and it's like, he's manifesting that as well, because sometimes they're annoying, right? You get a bit sick of them. But that works because it's like disturbing and it's annoying and it's like constantly gnawing away at your head, just like it is for him.
Yep.
And I think that's really great. And that's another thing that I've heard criticised about the movie is that, this drum score it's so boring and monotonous. And I feel like, you're missing the point. Yeah, exactly. But at the end, they only come in like just before he sort of jumps off.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, this switch has gone in his head that he's not quite right. Or It's not a happy ending.
Maybe
I know I was saying earlier.
Just does have powers and he flies off at the end.
Well, maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean, then it really is a superhero movie. You know? I think you could almost, like, for most of the movie, I was thinking, like, I wonder if this actually is a superhero movie that is just with a bunch of philosophical stuff on top. But then they make a point of having the taxi.
Take him
back.
But maybe he could have landed somewhere else in New York and then took a taxi back to the...
But you see him land, like, literally see him land outside the theatre, and then a taxi pulls up.
Is that
or there's already a taxi there, and the driver comes out and says, "Hey, he didn't pay," or something.
Oh, is that how it worked? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, no, I don't know. I don't think that would necessarily be a good... I don't think that would be better if it was like that.
If it was an actual superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. I think for the first half hour or 40 minutes, it almost plays with that.
Well, it's interesting now that I think about it that it kind of begins and ends with the only two moments where other characters witness his powers. Like, it's the light falling on the guy's head, which it basically opens with, and then it ends with Emma Stone seeing him fly out the window.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know what that means.
Exactly. Yeah, and is that final shot more one of his visions of like what he would want to happen? You know, is it even actually happening?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I hate those "it's all a dream" readings, but
I don't necessarily mean that,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like, you know, he lives in his own fantasy world by the end of the movie. So, like you said, I love that we can just talk about it, and there's so many readings, and that sometimes that can be because of bad filmmaking or good filmmaking, and I think absolutely in this case is because of good filmmaking, and there is artistic intent behind it, but they didn't want to spell it out for anyone. And
I think that's right.
It's cool.
Was there anything that didn't work for you apart from a couple of moments of humour that didn't quite land? The "it smells like balls" line, which doesn't work in the trailer or the film.
No, it doesn't work in the movie either.
I did actually think some of Edward Norton's things were a little bit... didn't quite land. Most of them did. He was the funniest person in it, but there was, like, I don't know, there was just some, like, crude moments with Emma Stone, or when he was, like, sort of naked in front of the mirror, and it was kind of like...
Yeah, actually, I didn't like that part.
Yeah, there was a bit of a laugh at first, but then it was just... I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't quite land.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, I totally agree with that scene. I felt like I was trying a bit too hard. And I also think the, lesbian kiss scene...
That was what I was going to bring up.
Was like, where did that come from?
What the hell,
doesn't
right?
fit with anything.
That is the one standout thing in the film for me that was just...
Yeah.
Is it meant to just be funny? Is it just a gag?
I think so, because there's no thematic stuff about...
Yeah. And it doesn't go anywhere. There's no sort of lead up to it.
No.
There's kind of that... The punchline, I guess, is the camera swinging and you see Edward Norton...
Opens the door
and says something, kind of not even caring, and then just like walks off.
Yeah.
I think he does a bit of a double take as he leaves.
Yeah. I thought that was very strange, and that's where it did feel like, hey, we're making an art film. Hey, let's just have this in there. Ooh, look, here's something else that's a bit subversive. And hey, look, they're kissing. Whatever, man, it's all good. And it wasn't as tight like a bunch of the other stuff in the movie.
Yeah, I think that is probably the only criticism, like, significant criticism I would have of the film. I think it's sort of indicative of this tone and pace that it's continually trying to keep. It's almost constantly on like 11.
Yeah,
you know what
it's
I mean? In terms
kind
of
of stressful. It's a stressful movie.
Which I think, like we said before, is intentional, but stuff like this I feel like is thrown in there to add this level of like craziness, and some of them just don't quite work.
Yeah.
And it does get a little bit monotonous when you're on the same emotional sort of register the whole time.
Well, you have a couple of slower scenes on the roof. With Emma Stone and Edward Norton. And I like those scenes for the break they provided, and the visuals were kind of nice then. Just, it kind of felt like you were getting the fresh air of the roof yourself. But I also found some of the writing and the character stuff there a bit.
Yeah, actually, I'd felt a little bit like that
Again,
too.
like
Which is weird
an
because I've
art
heard a lot
film.
of people
Let's
love
talk about these themes. And the performances were great, but it's just some of the writing there.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
We could, yeah. Maybe we should
wrap it up.
Wrap it up there.
So yeah, good. I really liked it. I think it's, definitely go out and see it. Even if it's kind of overstuffed with themes and metaphor, I'd much prefer that than something that's empty and soulless. Absolutely. Yep. It's just such a fascinating film to think about and talk about. And,
there's so much in it.
Yeah, works on like 98% of the levels that it's trying to. Yep,
I totally agree. And I'm really excited to see what Iñárritu does next.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to the Pre-Post Film Review. We'd love to know what you guys thought of Birdman. If you have any interesting theories about what happened at the end there, or just what you thought of the film in general, you can shoot us an email at prepostfilmreview@gmail.com. That'd be great.
That would be fantastic. We'd also love for you guys to check us out on Facebook and give us a like there. Really helps with getting promotion out for the show, getting more listeners.
Yep.
And on that note, and probably most importantly in that way, is iTunes. If you can subscribe on iTunes, that really gets us out there and noticed, and can get us featured on certain lists and things. And that would be awesome to get more of the community happening around the show. And if you don't like iTunes, we're also on Stitcher and any other big podcast sort of service. So subscribe to us on that and tell your friends. Oh, we're also on Twitter. Almost forgot.
Yes.
And that's at prepostfr.
Yep, that's right.
So little bits of info on there when new episodes are coming out, and a little bit of discussion there. So why not give us a follow on Twitter as well?
Yep. And John and I are both on the site Letterboxd, which is a great little film community site that lets you kind of list and rank films and keep a little diary of all the films that you've been watching. There'll be links in the show notes for both of our Letterboxd pages, so you can follow us on there and see what we've been watching, the sort of films we don't necessarily chat about on the podcast. We might pop a little review up on there just to give you guys an idea of what we've been seeing. So join us next episode, where we're going to be chatting about the new Clint Eastwood film, American Sniper.
The most lethal US sniper in military history. Or something like that.
Something like that.
That's the subtitle. Smells like balls.